Hello everyone, welcome to Wei and Kathy Show. I'm your host Wei Fang. And you may have heard about that, and the stop mortgage payment, such a campaign is spreading in China. And now it seems to have a spreading beyond the real estate field and into other areas like the banking industry. So would that trigger a major financial meltdown in China? That's the topic today. So, okay, I'm your host Wei Fang, and Kathy is not here today. Let me share with you our plan. Okay, we're thinking about bringing this show to a daily show, and with Wei doing 2 days and Kathy doing another 2 days, and then on Friday we'll be hosting the show together. So let's try that. Our hope is really to help you, understand China better, and also help you, understand American better through the eyes of Asian American as we immigrate here, and with our own perspective. And so far, we thank you very much for being with us and supporting us, and taking our what do we share, and I really appreciate that. And especially thank you for your donation for this program. And your support is great encouragement to us. And before we start, if you can take the time, just press the thumbs up, and and then making sure you stay subscribed. Hopefully, we can carry on and make this a daily show so that we can bring the best information that we think, is to you. Okay, so today, before we talk about this major, maybe it's the starting point of a major financial crisis, okay? So before that, I want to spend a few minutes talk about this pandemic issue in China. Okay, so the most recent news is more than half of the China's area, more than 20 out of the 31 provinces have a re-eruption of the pandemic. And then the authorities, the regime's reaction is to, whole population acid test and lock down the cities. They lock down. The most recent news is, which is of today, out of the 16 districts in Shanghai, 9 of them, or nearly 60% of them, have been locked down. And then all people living in those districts have to receive 2 acid tests within 3 days. That really gets some Shanghainese scared to death after being locked down for 2 months. Some of them even at the verge of starving to death. Some people maybe they already starved to death. Nobody would have the number, because finding out such truth itself is dangerous. So in the city of Tianjin, which is a major metropolitan area just outside of Beijing, to the southeast of Beijing, because of 2 cases, okay. 2 cases, the city government ordered 13 million people to go, tonight, okay, receive 1 round of acid test. There's other city like Chengdu, the capital city in the Sichuan province. You mean like the Sichuan food, the spicy food in that province, okay? The capital, they found 14 cases, okay, and then they locked down the Chengdu province, Chengdu city, for 7 days. And then the other 3 cities. I will not go too much into it. So how severe the situation is, we want to ask ourselves. Let me tell you how severe it is. In the last 7 days, every single day, we have about 390 new cases in China. All right. How to put that into perspective? Let me share with you. In Vietnam, every single day, they reported 750 new cases. In Thailand, which is also neighboring China, 1,800 cases per day. Philippines, 2,600 per day. And America, 22,000 cases a day. And Taiwan, 24,000 cases a day. So comparatively, maybe Tony, you can show that graph that I want you to show. You can take a look. Yes, after spike, you see at the the right edge of this chart, that a little bit, okay. So we're talking about only 390 cases. So it's a non-issue. It's a non-issue, okay? It's better than virtually all the other countries, especially in the Southeast Asia. But the lockdown policy is more severe than any nation, more than North Korea. Can you believe that? So not just those few cities I mentioned to you, it's more than 20 provinces and cities. They start the whole population as acid test and the lockdown. And then not just that, okay, 2 mid-level officials, they were, removed from their position, and there's this nationwide reporting saying that because they were not proactive enough in executing this zero COVID policy, so they were punished. So that pretty much sent a message out there. So every officials, watch out. Okay, you have to be proactive in executing the top leader, which is Xi Jinping's zero COVID policy. So as we understand, Omicron, which is the main, just spreading virus in China, is pretty much just a more severe, like a flu type of things, because the virus does not go into the lung, just stay here and above. So pretty much you sneeze, you got some headache, you got running nose and things like that. Just pretty much like a flu, okay? So with that flu, they are willing to lock down more than 20 provinces and cities. And what's the cost of the lockdown? It's huge. People with heart disease, with the diabetes, they cannot go to hospital, and then they cannot, seek treatment. And then also other like acute diseases, they just die. They die because they cannot even get to the emergency of the hospital because they are locked down too. And so why did China do this? We want to ask ourselves, why did they do that? Actually, Xi Jinping, made this clear in the recent speech. He said, we would rather lost some, sacrifice a little bit of economic development than to put our people's safety and health in the harm's way. It looks very rational, looks very caring, right? So, and they also said, in the West, the herd immunization in the West, and then it's the wrong way. If we learn from that and follow that, we're gonna pay dearly. All right. So the medical expert has concluded that Omicron is spreading much higher than other type of virus, but it's the death rate and severity is the harm is much lower than the other type of a virus. So it's much easier to cure that. So in majority of the countries in the world, they all adopted the way of just coexist with the virus. In the U.S., as you know, you live there, I live here, I live in San Francisco. I went to restaurant actually over this weekend. Kathy and I went back to San Francisco to move some more stuff out. So we went to restaurant. There's not even a mask mandate. Life goes on, life back to normal. But in China, it's because of that 390 cases, they turned half of the country upside down because they have the power. That's what they do. And why did they do that? Why did Xi Jinping do that? Because, let me tell you this reason. Maybe you don't believe it. Because he's misinformed. He doesn't know the truth. He's quoted by all those, what's the word of that? Siphon? Anyway, it's the people, dishonest people who want to police the supreme leader, so that they can keep their position and keep their benefit and keep all those, the corrupted, earning they got from serving Xi Jinping. They don't tell him the truth. So he does have this, moral high ground, saying that I don't mind just sacrifice some economic development because I want to care for people's health. Okay, that's the moral high ground. The second, he got the number, right? 390 versus 22,000 in the US. We must have been doing a better job. Okay, the third is the political correctness, because he is at the verge, just ahead of the 20th Party's Congress, which would happen in November, which would certify him to be the permanent leader of China. So he cannot afford his policy being overturned by other people. So he has to insist that. But this moral high ground, these numbers, none of them make sense for anybody who lived through the 2-month ruthless lockdown in China. It's just torture. You are at the verge of, death, because you got nothing to eat. If you don't eat anything, how many days can you persist? Can you survive? Xi Jinping doesn't know anything about that. Nobody will tell him that. So he leaves his, the tip of his IV, not an ivory, horn, and then he just and he has all the power of China, so he can do anything he wants. So now let's come to the second topic. This is a stop mortgage payment matter. So why do I want to report this to you? Why do you care? Because I want you to understand that what it's like in China, first thing. The second, what kind of crisis that the Chinese government could be facing right now. All right, so for 30 years, as I reported to you last time, for 30 years, China's real estate is a big bubble. Anybody, any insider, any real estate expert, any economics, they know it's a bubble. Emphatically, I want to mention 3 people, okay, who know this is a bubble. The first person is Gordon Chang. You may know him. He's a, Fox News commentator. He wrote a lot of books, and one of the books is in the 2011. He wrote a book called The Coming Collapse of China. Okay, because he worked in Hong Kong and Shanghai for 20 years. He he saw what it's like in China, how prevalent the corruption is, how corrupt, basically, just how bad it is. He know that the bubble cannot, cannot hold for any longer time, so he wrote that book. However, 11 years later, the bubble did not burst. He seems to be quote unquote wrong. Well, another person who really believes this is a bubble is his name is called Xie Guozhong. Xie Guozhong is he went to MIT and got the doctor PhD in economics, okay, from MIT. So then he became the first economist of JP Morgan, okay, and for 6 years, the institutional investor magazine, okay, voted him to be the best economist of China, of Asia. So he correctly predicted the financial crisis of Asia, and he, and the 2008 financial meltdown in the U.S., financial recess, and then, but he also wrong. Some of his predictions are also wrong. In the 2011, just like Gordon Chang and Xie Guozhong also predict the bubble of the real estate of China will burst. It did not happen. 11 years later, it still hold there. The third person who believes it's a bubble, his name is Xi Jinping, the supreme leader of China. Okay, why? As early as 2016, he said, housing is for living, it's not for investing. Okay, because he saw the bubble too big. He thinks it's irrational. He wants to squeeze it. He wants to contain it. He doesn't want it to be grow out of shape, out of proportion. Okay, he issued that his statement is actually is a directive saying that house is for living, it's not for investing. Because in China, okay, what's the manifestation of the housing being a bubble? Many a mid-class family owns several apartments, several condominiums, and then some of them are empty for long years. Doesn't matter, because when they sell it, they always sell a better price a few years down the road. You hold it, it's going to become more valuable. So it doesn't even matter to find the leaser, a renter for that. It is just like that. The people, everybody in on the street, and they talk about buying the house. When you stop at this traffic light, people give you a pamphlet saying that this is the house you can buy nearby. It's just like the whole population is buying houses. So 70% of the wealth in the Chinese people are in real estate. It is just that crazy. So Xi Jinping know that too. So not only he said the house is for living, it's not for investing, because he's the supreme leader. He can issue order. So actually the central government issued like 3 red lines early last year, so that to just contain the bubble a little bit. And what are they? The first red line saying that your debt versus asset cannot be more than 70%, not counting the advance deposit, the down payment for the housing project. So which means, because the housing project, how they do this, the real estate companies in China, they develop a model house, then they spread the word, saying that come take a look. If you like this house, oh boy, it's going to worth a lot a few years down the road. You better, buy it now. So before they even buy the second, build the second house, they're able to sell like 30 or 50 units. And the people give them down payment. They use that collected down payment as the fund to buy goods and start to build the second house. That's the way it is. So those money are called advanced deposit. So the first red line is saying that counting out the advanced deposit, your debt versus your asset cannot be more than 70%. So basically a way saying that you have to be solid. You have to have enough asset. You cannot borrow too much, right? Seems to be a reasonable red line. The second red line is counting everything. Your debt versus asset cannot be more than 100%. So this pretty much is saying that you cannot take too much advanced deposit because that could introduce some risk too, right? So it doesn't make sense, doesn't it? The third red line is your cash, the cash ratio, and your short-term debt. What is short-term debt? It's because short-term cash, right? You buy a short-term debt, you got the cash, you have to return in the short time. So your cash versus your short-term debt cannot be less than 1%, 100%. Pretty much saying that you cannot borrow more than what you have. So three red lines seems to make sense. When they apply that trigger the bursting, the crisis of the real estate industry in China, okay, since last September. So you would ask why? It seems to make sense, and why that play an adverse effect? Two reasons. The first, the Xi Jinping did not know and did not estimate and cannot predict the bubble is so big, it's beyond his imagination already. And then for the largest real estate companies like Everglade, right, Evergrande, their assets is what, $2 trillion China dollars. And you think this is great, very, very shiny, well-respected company, just like our Apple or our HP or Intel, and then their debt is $2.6 trillion. The companies are fake. Okay, this is the first thing. He did not know that they borrow so much money. They borrow so much money. They borrow from their investor, they borrow their supplier, they borrow from their their construction company, they borrow from the distributor, they borrow from everybody. Sometimes they take their money, they don't pay back. They borrow money, they don't pay back. They just hold on to those money because they know the more money they have, the bigger ball they're gonna make. And the ball is a ball of housing. The house price always go up. It will be able to be sold. They will make their money back. So they just keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing out of proportion because the housing price always goes up. Okay? So if the bubble, is burst, cannot go up, then they're going to discover all those shiny brand name real estate company. They got so many bad debt they simply cannot pay back. It's a mess inside the bubble. Xi Jinping did not know that. Okay, so when that happened, this is when that got bursted. When they cannot borrow more money, then they have no new money to blow up the bubble. Okay, then the debt is due. They have to pay back. They don't have the money. So that's where the crisis of Evergrande or Hengda or the China's real estate, how that come about. So when that come about, they got no money. Okay, the government doesn't want to bail them out. The government, they don't like it. They say you make all the good money, and now when you are in this situation, I have to bail you out. I don't want to bail you out, so they don't do that. Okay, so actually, it's not too much wrong not to do that. They could just let them bankrupt and get rid of those bad operating companies. Have the new generation of solid and healthy and conservative company to survive that. No. They don't let them go bankrupt. They say you cannot go bankrupt because if you go bankrupt, it's going to destabilize the society. So they receive no help, they receive no infusion of the money, and then they are not allowed to go bankrupt. So pretty much they just let the problem sit there. As the problems sit, they grow and grow and grow. Okay, so last week the China's banking industry, okay, the index dropped 8% in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and two big bank, one is China's post office bank, that's bank in all the vertical industry. Then some other bank, major bank, okay, they lost 15% and 13%, okay. It's called Zhaoshang Yinhang, okay, the Commerce Bank of China dropped 15% in 1 week, and then the Post Bank dropped 13%. So because why? Because when those people who put down the down payment and then start to pay the mortgage, waiting for that promised housing to be delivered, and then the developers have no money. Okay, they just cannot borrow anymore. They don't have any money, so the housing project stay unfinished, and there's no hope for it to continue. So they just feel that, why do I want to pay this mortgage payment while I have no hope to even getting the house that I already paid for? So they stop paying that. When they stop paying that, the bank will say, oh boy, I'm gonna got a lot of bad loan here. So that's what the bank face. So at this time, Chinese government is saying that they just issue orders saying those banks release loan to the real estate agencies, the real estate developers, rescue the situation. They can issue those orders, but the bank doesn't want to do it because banks saying those are very, companies on the verge of destruction. What would happen if I lend them more money? So the bank did not follow the order. So again, the real estate developers like Evergrande, they receive no help. So this is where China is at this time. So what could be, if you read the Wall Street Journal, you probably will read that the problem is under control. It will not trigger systematic meltdown because, first, generally Chinese people are very behaving in terms of paying mortgage. The bad debt is only like 1.9%. Okay, after this stop payment movement, only not 1.9%. It's much safer than other country. So it's not that bad. Okay, the second is it's only it's called like a grade 3 or grade 4 cities, like a rural cities, those kind of places. It's not like in Shenzhen or Guangzhou or Shanghai or Beijing, those first grade cities. It doesn't matter. Okay. And fourth is another reason is that the government, then they could still bail them out. They can always bail them out. Is that true? Maybe they're true. Maybe it's a small matter. It will pass in a few days. Maybe not. Okay. So it's possible that if going when like a Evergrande and the company like that went through the nightmare in the last 1 year, they are literally scared to death. Nobody dare to play this borrow and develop type of game. Even the government want them to borrow money. They dare not to do so. A heavy airplane already landed. They are not able to take off anymore. They are not, because they are scared to death. So in short, let me tell you my conclusion, and we can watch that. The fast development of China is very likely hence stopped. Real estate and related industry take 40% of China's economy. Okay. Now in the future, you probably won't be looking at China grow 9% or 10% or 5.5%. Okay. If they don't shrink, it's already good news. This is how bad the situation is. Xi Jinping believed that we just sacrifice a little economic development. We'll always redevelop. We're so fast. We were so strong. We're always, ever growing. We always grow. No. Now this round of, just poke open and burst the bubble, and everybody was scared to death. They dare not for a long time, to jump in and rebuild this bubble anymore. So the house price, chances are will be dropping. As they dropped, think about those families own several condos. Some of them are empty. Will they still hold on to those under the water assets? No, they're going to sell it. As they sell, the price go down even further. So that's going to trigger a chain of other domino effects. It could be happening, okay? And I will, watch them and update them as they happen or as they don't happen. report to you the truth, what will happen in China. But at least I would like to say with confidence that China's fast developing China is coming to a halt. They're not in that mode or in that track anymore. And but of course, as we say, U.S. is not in better shape, right? As you know, the inflation and everything, and these two countries are both racing to the bottom, but China is worse. Yeah, the media that you read may not tell you that, but if you trust Wei and Kathy, we'll see. We'll see whether it's worth we can earn your trust. It's worth your trust. All right. So let me see. Do you have any feedback? I want to know that whether you like what I said. So Ting Ting said, I don't know how it works, but it will protect my people. Yeah. Okay. And Ruth, you wrote the circling drain. These are big dominoes. It's very likely. Okay, it's likely. And Gerard the Jewel said, great investigative reporting. Thanks to Wen and Kathy. Thank you, Gerard. And Gordon Chang was correct, just off by about 20 years. Yes, because the government is so strong, right? It controls all the element. So when they face crisis, they can find a way to just squeeze through that, but they never resolve the problem. The bubble just keep growing. They just kick the can down the road. The can is not there anymore. The can become bigger as they kick it off. So someday it's going to come back. Okay, Louis, you said, how can you sell a condo that is not even finished? The people are bag holders. Yes, exactly. That's what they sell. They sell a lot of things, virtually most of things, before it's even finished. After the model house, they sell everything because the house always go up. It's just so crazy. They grow like almost like dozens of times in the matter of 20 years. So it's that kind of craziness. All right. So, and yeah, okay. So that's the story for today. Tomorrow, Kathy will be bringing you a interview of an investigative reporter, and his name is Ethan Gunman. He's a filmmaker. He's an investigative journalist. He's a podcaster, and he's a writer. And he's did I say filmmaker? And he's also a human rights activist. And so will be a very interesting story, okay, and an in-depth interview of Ethan Gunman. All right, that will be all for today, and thank you for staying with us tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Good night. Bye-bye.